Live, live, live we are. Gently down the stream. It's really fucking hot in this car. That's alright, it seems. Hello. This is Josh back from the crypt. I just spent quite a lot of time feeling pretty sick. Feeling pretty damn good now. My whole family's sick. And that's been a really interesting challenge. I'm just going to sit here and see if people come on. When you do come in, you can shoot a hello in the comments. I find that to be helpful to get things rolling. And otherwise, just going to fuck around here for a second. One second. Do a little staring. And do a little hello. Do a little ha ha. Do a little hee hee. Do a little oh 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 chipita. But I've noticed that there's nobody on in this mom. Makes sense. Didn't give any prep. Don't have a particularly strong energetic field as to what's happening or what's going on. But I still thought I'd go live today. It's fucking gorgeous here in Australia. Maybe we'll start that way. Take a little peekaroo at just how pretty everything is. We've got Hey Ruth, how you doing, darling? Oh, yeah, absolutely stunning day. Absolutely beautiful here. And for those in the know, it has not been. Oh yeah, it's beautiful in Nova Scotia too. Fuck yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty wildly rainy and stormy here for quite some time. So it's really nice. The solar on our bus, works like a million times better. Well, it works at all because there's sun. So it's nice. Yeah. So what's everyone up to? Let's do a live hang situation. What's everyone up to? What's the themes? What you been chilling on? Hey Tash, how you doing? Oh, blessed be. Yeah. So all I've got to say, just because it's been fucking almost like a week and a half of this, is that I was sick again with what felt like the coronavirus again. Fuck. And it's funny. I was saying to Lily, I was like, "So what do you think this is all about?" And it's like half of it is just the physical truth that there's bacteria all over our children, and we're constantly around people with children, and things just get germy. And the other thing was honestly that we're coming into our own as a family and coming into having stronger, what do you call it? Having stronger like self-confidence and energy fields and all the kind of stuff. And we're in the middle of like doing that right now. It's interesting actually through that sickness process that I was just describing, because again, I was sick again. Fuck man, I went through all kinds of like interesting purges, and I know I wrote about it on Facebook, but just perceptual changes. It's crazy what it's like when we're sick, hey? And when we're sick with these deeper fucking corona things as well. Like I just can't describe to you how psychedelic the whole thing felt. Like I was like didn't know who I was at different points, and it was like seeing everyone like completely differently than I normally would. That happened last time as well. It's fucking wild. Hey Kelsey, how you doing, man? Oh, me and Kelsey Mueller down there lived together. What 16 years ago in Edmonton, or not together, but pretty close. Living in the same apartment complex. It's pretty crazy how many friends we got here on Facebook and all of the complex origins and different situations that we've all been in together. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Anyways, yeah, sick as all hell. Better now, thank God. In fact, I feel almost, I don't want to jinx myself here, but better than I've ever felt in my entire life, as happens sometimes when we come out of these sicknesses as well. It felt like there was massive mental and emotional purging happening. I know that we're in a um, pretty heavy astrology time. And look at all the comments. We're gonna get right into it, guys. Thank you so much for coming in and playing already. But yeah, just the depths of intensity of perceptual changes and not knowing who I am or who other people are, and then coming out of it feeling like renewed and stuff. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Jody says 71 degrees here in Wisco, USA. Scorpio season is shedding season. So many people sick as of late, building that immunity. I'm just chilling today. Sent off my oldest with a bunch of penis envy to help her depression. I would love to know what you mean by sending her off with a bunch of penis envy. You could let me know. That'd be great. And yes, advocate for plant medication. So that Coco says, I can relate so much to the purging and interesting body feels. Sorry you've been sick. I'm glad you're feeling better. Thank you, darling. I appreciate that. And Tash says, I feel when we are sick, it's almost like a physical and spiritual battle, an internal intrusion. It's interesting you said this. It does bring up a lot. Mentally, it seems there are shifts. Yeah, you fucking right. And yeah, Jody's having a mushroom journey. Awesome. Awesome, hun. Yeah, plant medicines are definitely the go um, with our community and people. So we're not, no judgment happening there. But yeah, it is the Scorpio season. I think it's really important to just say it out loud that we're in some pretty weird times. Pretty much everybody I know, if I actually can talk to them for more than 10 minutes and get into the deeps, there's like some shit going down. A lot of people are feeling um, off or are going through big purges or going through massive events in their life with their partners or with their family or with their kids. Like, yeah, there's a lot going on right now. And I think it's actually really important just to remind each other that there's a lot going on, just so we can almost give each other that like boost, that little hug boost. Like, okay, we can do it. We can fucking do it. You can do it. I can do it. Sometimes it doesn't feel like we can do it when you're in the middle of these heavy, heavy times. And Jody, I was, yeah, I was just gonna say, look, I'll put it up on the screen. Terrible thing to put though. Lots of suicides and deaths too. So when these heavy, painful energies are coming through, sometimes people's souls stir, and we might end up in some form of self-harm, or we might end up with again some form of illness that overtakes us. Yeah, it's a really, really harsh time. And again, it's good though for us to remember that so that we can remember we're in extraordinary times. And if we happen to be hitting one of the darkest parts of our own soul or of our own psyche or of our own experience, it's important to remember that this is something that a lot of people are going through all at the same time. And, I think that all I can ever say is a combination of everything is going to be okay. And also, you got to honor the painful shit while we're going through it because we don't want to spiritually bypass, right? So if we're like, oh, no, 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 I know that spiritually everything's fine, and then we don't actually go in to do what I just did for the last week and feel all that like intense, fucking crazy energy on the inside um, by feeling it and doing it in a way that's balanced. So not feeling it to become so waterlogged that we're like, oh no, I'm drowning, but not ignoring it either, because ignoring it will not allow us to purge the actual stuff that's happening on the inside. So if we can find that balance of um, not spiritually bypassing, but also not getting eaten by some of these things, whew, and that's probably the love the chaos. Crazy Aries ass. Yes, you are. Yes, you are, Jody. Yeah, just a reminder though that we're in fucking heavy ass times, and there's everyone's gonna feel that in different ways, but just keeping that in our hearts and keeping that in our minds so that we're not feeling Yeah, there we go. Emily comes up to say finding that balance between feeling and not getting drowned by emotions is one of my challenges. I would say that that is the challenge of our time because back in the day, like 100 years ago, no one felt fuck all. Everyone just like avoided feeling at all costs, and maybe that ran for a few thousand years as well. Like there was a strong time period where if you were vulnerable, and feeling intense feelings is a vulnerable thing. If we're vulnerable, then we're likely going to get hurt worse. That was the theme for the world for a very long time. Now we're in this place where we can feel and we have the space to feel, but fuck, it is possible to, as we talked about in the live stream a few weeks ago as well, get dragged down into the pain, and have it be much harder to get out of that pain and to feel that drowning feeling. So how do we feel and process purge without getting eaten by it? And then how do we keep ourselves open in our hearts while we're going through those things? Because our openness, ironically and interestingly, is what helps us purge as well, right? If we're too tight on something, then we'll hold on to it. If we're open and we're able to really allow it to come through, including the painful, shitty times, then oftentimes things do purge. I remember, like, I don't know, like even 10 years ago when I was first alerted, I guess you could say, to the fact that we're going through this big change here on the planet, and these big moves in consciousness, these big changes, that they always will come with purging. So when we're changing from one thing to another, the actual transformation or transmutation often involves a lot of pain. And yeah, we're going through, again, a global purge right now. I'm going to go into this another day, but a lot of the stuff around there's a new age happening and we have to purge all this shit on the inside in order to move into different vibrations. It actually means a lot to me still. And I know that I will talk a little bit of smack about the new age thing, but not the real new age thing. The real new age thing is that there's like fucking changes happening all in the air that can be felt and could be psychically picked up on, and it'll spur us through vibration to go through different transformations. The only criticism is that when humans get a hold of anything, we tend to turn it into what do you call it, like religious structures, and we tend to turn it into things that make us feel better about ourselves and stuff like that. And so we create beliefs and propagate those beliefs, and go through all kinds of crazy things. But the truth behind all of that is that the movements that are happening in the air, the actual changes that are happening in the air that can be felt by our bodies, felt by our third eyes, felt by our mind, they're fucking huge. And as they're happening, it's really important that we find some way to get through them, pass through the fire each time they happen, because it's not going away anytime soon. And realistically, our whole civilization depends on it, actually, us going through these processes and healing the collective pain and wounds that exist in our bodies and exist in the bodies of the people on the planet. We are going through a purge and a change of some kind. And as Facebook user just said, which is an interesting moniker, we are in it together, and that is the truth. Come to do a little reading here. Tash says, I feel that women with their cycles monthly go to see these crazy emotions too, but our culture bastardizes women and calls them crazy instead of allowing them to be powerful, wide open crystal balls that they are that time of month. I pray for a move towards a more matrilineal position, in other words, matriarchy, yeah, in society where old ways and mind frames come back and we honor the roles of men and women, get in tune with our original knowledge and practice runes, astral travel, spirit journey. Yeah, sick. That's an awesome desire, Tash, and why not? There's things from the traditions of the past that we can grab, and there's things that we can let go of, and there's going to be old and new all coming in together at the same time, which is a really cool feeling, really. If we can get rid of, if we can be mindful and discerning that some of the older traditions are more based in superstition, and then that also that a lot of the older traditions have like that depth of knowledge that you're talking about. If we can find again the balance or the middle between those two things, I think we'll be in a cool shape to check it out. Emily comes in to say, the dance between holding and observing the pain and emotion of others and feeling as if we can communicate, feel, and experience our own. Most people in my circles feel as if they're not projecting right now. Most people seem willing to own their experiences right now more. So quickly, my heart is so happy for you. Yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, when these big energy intensity times come through, the tendency absolutely is to blame each other and to fight each other and to get into all kinds of crazy shit. But if all that exact same energy that's coming up isn't then projected onto others, isn't turned into dramas and narratives and stuff like that, but is just owned and felt on the inside, then we actually can go through those transformations and transfigurations. And wouldn't the whole of society, couldn't we all use that, It would be really neat if when we look back on this time, let's say 10 years ago, we can go, wow, that was a real tough time. And people were put through a lot, really pushed to their max, really taken to the limit in their bodies and in their minds. And then it would be beautiful to be able to look back at that and see that that happened and give ourselves a pat on the back, like, whoo, that was crazy times. I'm glad we all made it through. Not all, but I'm glad a lot of people made it through and upgraded in their spiritual connection and upgraded in their healing and health, like that ultimately would be a pretty fucking cool reality. And why not? What else are we doing? Jody Moon says she's guilty. I'll be a bit bitchy online, keeps me centered, and I don't release that onto my family. It's funny, I had a psychic reading who told me to do the same thing. He was like, yeah, if you've got that bit of anti-establishment inside you, you better let it out with friends and different places, because it will hit too close to home if we don't. And Emily says, we're getting there as a collective. I feel as if people are processing so differently these days, or perhaps it's just because I am influencing my perspective. It's influencing my perspective. Yeah. 1 second. So when you say processing differently, you mean, as you were saying before, like not projecting as much, like really getting into the inside of it and allowing it to work through transformation? I think that's what you're saying. If you could let me know if that's what you're saying, that'd be excellent. I'm really enjoying this interactive style of talking to people and hanging out. I see there's quite a few people online here right now as well. That was a little blast from my last week. What's everyone else up to? Talk to me. Talk to me. We got people online right now. I kind of feel like making this again a little more unique, a little more playful. What's everyone else up to? I see 11 people on right now. Do a little typing if you don't mind. Tell me what you're up to. Tell me what you're going through. Emily says, more brave to experience scary or heavy emotions. Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah. Because it is easy to spiritually bypass, right? Like if something really heavy comes up, it's easy to be like, oh, even in saying that it's the astrology, it's like, oh, that's the astrology, it's not me. Just throw it over there. Go over there. But ultimately, it is the astrology, let's say, that's bringing things that are already in us up. And so being able to use these springboards or platforms in order to go through changes can be super fucking helpful. I personally, again, feel renewed, having gone through a lot of very painful emotions last week. Holy fuck nuts, and also um, the physical, mental, emotional purging all happening at the same time. Lindsay Howlett, how you doing, Lindsay? Long time to talk. Says trying to get out of a place where I'm judging my partner. Well, it's the hardest one when it comes to partners, isn't it? Because even if we do a lot of work on our minds and a lot of work on the way that we interact with people and that we let go of our mindsets about others and understand our own mind, and that judgment ultimately is futile, right? Like if I'm looking at this tree right here and I'm like, you're a stupid tree because you go both ways like that, all the way up here and then all the way up here. It doesn't actually change the tree. So it is literally just us versus ourselves when it comes to the judging thing. But when it comes to partnerships, it is fucking crazy how the deeper, more conditioning when it comes to um, the judgment and the negative perceptions that we hold, and the judging as in like you should be like this, but also judging as in like you shouldn't be like that because you're making me feel this, that, and the other thing. It's hard. One thing that Lily and I are working on right now is a course that anticipates, it's communication for relationships, and that sort of thing. But instead of assuming that once you learn all these things, you'll just stop getting into fights and stop having negative perceptions, it's actually to embrace the fact that that's probably going to happen, a lot. And even by embracing it, by saying it's probably going to happen, it's a trick, because if you can actually totally accept that something's going to happen, get into a place where we're in acceptance and peace in our body about it, the chances of it happening unconsciously and therefore in its worst form is actually less. So being able to instead say, I shouldn't be judging my partner, and saying like, oh, if I have been judging my partner and this is something that I've been carrying from relationship to relationship, that's probably going to keep happening. So being able to be like, okay, but not in like a defeatist way. It's not like, and I want it to keep happening and I'm going to make it worse and I'm going to keep on pushing the judgment. It's more like, if I know this is something that keeps happening, and if people in relationships often take this the hardest, like we have this the hardest when we're most intimate with people, then likely I'm going to keep on judging. And instead of judging ourselves for judging, because that turns into its own form of matrix or judgment, it's like being able to even say in a very gentle way, like, oh, I see this tendency towards me becoming judgmental. It's probably going to happen again. And I'm doing my absolute best to make sure that it doesn't get out of control and that I don't push intense or heavy judgment at you. But at the same time, let's be realistic with ourselves, right? If these things have come up before, they're probably going to come up again. And if they do come up and we're prepared for them and we know ourselves, then they're going to have less sting or less unconscious impact. So if you could rephrase that to, I'm embracing the fact that there's judgment inside me towards my partner, that might end up taking some of the sting out. You let me know. RC Eric Jennings comes on to say, it's been a long time, brother. Nice to see you. Going through the end of my own rebirth back to life after a couple of hell years that you know something but not all about. My new life and outlook are so refreshing, considering I never thought things would change at one point. Mate, I was there with you when a lot of things were crashing down, and just seeing on Facebook that you are living on a farm and have created a beautiful life for yourself, and have clearly gone through the fires of pain and depth of darkness inside yourself, and seeing you come out the other end is absolutely fucking beautiful, man. Eric and I went to high school together. So actually it's a cool story. Actually, it's yeah, I grew up and went to school in Fall River for most of my life, and there was lots of cool cats there, Eric being one of them. And when I was growing up, I was kind of a shell of who I am now, and a shell of who I could be. I was very insecure, very quiet, and ended up, but felt on the inside that's not who I am. Like it was almost like a trap, because I was like, I feel like I'm bombastic, but I was like, oh shit, I feel really scared. Then later in life, though, me and some friends opened our center in Halifax, and people like Eric and other people that we had been friends, but like I just wasn't really fully myself. I wasn't really in my soul, so I couldn't express that to people. But when me and my friends opened our center, a lot of these friends from high school came back through, and we ended up connecting in a really deep way. And I appreciate you very much too, Eric. Thank you. Um, okay, so we've got Emily coming in to say, question, do you think we have a need to make meaning of things and ascribe a reason for them rather than allowing them to experience and flow through us? Yeah, I really do think that that is, I want to say the issue, but it's one of the problems that we have as humans, because again, you can look at this tree and think, oh, look, again, it goes up this way and it goes up that way. That's so fucked up. But if you're just looking at the tree as though it is perfect and doesn't require anything. Like it is exactly what it is. There's nothing that'll ever change about it, or nothing needs to change about it anyway. Then it would be a lot easier. And as humans, we have a need to take things and divide them up and to split them up and to make them into this and make them into that and turn them into this story and that story. And ultimately, um, by doing that, we're fragmenting ourselves, right? Because things are just as they are. And I have noticed as well, and this is again a part of what me and Lily are formulating for our transformational communication course, is that sometimes just feeling the simple feeling, oh shit, something's uncomfortable, is different than feeling, oh, something's uncomfortable, and then turning it into, and it's because of this, and it's my karma from the past. And if I only take this action right now, then that will change it. And it's like all these things, but realistically, just being able to just feel a little uncomfortable for a moment, or being able to feel, oh shit, it's all popping off over here. I'm gonna try and get away from the noise. But yeah, we're definitely meaning makers. And the truth is that the meaning in reality is often just very simple. And we are complex creatures who will usually make things worse than they are just through our mental thing, which is a funny thing. And Emily says the difference for me between noticing and staying curious to behaviors, ours and others, rather than coming to conclusions and making narratives, seems to keep communication open and continue connection and intimacy, vulnerability. Fuck yeah, girl. I love you, Emily. You're doing the thing. It's funny. I saw Emily at a party the other day, and I just appreciated that at the party you were very real about your traveling experiences. And just, yeah, it's really tempting when we see people at a party and they say, how you doing, to be like, good. But it's not always the case. In fact, good is usually a very simplified narrative of that would cover up the complexity of all the different things that are actually going on. Tash says, I find people a little too stuck here in Nova Scotia. Sadly, tell me, I wonder, if you're the last sane person around, does that make you crazy? It's hard knowing the pieces and having to wait. Also, been going through crazy emotions, feeling conflicted, feeling insecure, trying to be strong, been listening to loads of music, casting ruins, painting and hanging with my family. Also been doing a lot of evolution within my own relationship. It's interesting you mentioned. Well, that is all beautiful things. About feeling isolated, though, I am from Nova Scotia, as you know, and Nova Scotia is a beautiful place, but it does have a lot of very old mindsets. Part of that, I believe, is just because the roots, they're kind of the first place that people landed in Canada. And sorry, just 1 second. Just going to get out of the harsh conditions here. And part of it is that there's ghosts everywhere too in Nova Scotia. The Halifax explosion just like fucked off half the city, and there is like, yeah, there's a lot of old pain that lives in Nova Scotia, and a lot of traditional values, but like there's the good kind of tradition where there's depth and resources and richness, and then there's the kind of tradition that's like, well, my pappy's done it this way forever, so I'm going to keep doing it this way. But unfortunately, it's a lot harder to break out of those mindsets when oh, just 1 second. I'm just seeing all kinds of, wow, this is really nice, guys. Thank you so much for all the engagement today. It's been really nice just to be able to pop in and bounce with it all. Jody says, I love how you shared. You said to tell Lucas when you're feeling jealous or insecure or mad within self-war family. Complete honesty and transparency. Yeah, we're definitely good at that. Me and Lily's got one thing nailed. It's being transparent and authentic. And just, sorry, to come back to what you were saying, Tash, is that's the hard part, is that when we're in places that have strong mental barriers, like Nova Scotia often does, people are very stuck in their ways. It's really hard to just be honest and transparent. I remember a friend of mine was saying that, like, you know, when you get into shadow work, which is something that we work with, we call it shadow wisdom, Lily and I. The idea is that a part of shadow work is just to say, wow, I feel really insecure, or wow, I feel really uncomfortable on the inside. But if we're around people that aren't able to open up and be authentic and be real with themselves, when we say that, it actually often triggers people. Like they're like, no, 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 you're fine. Like you don't need to feel insecure. You don't need to feel sad. Like you don't need to feel... And it's just funny because that's not the point of making an expression like that, right? When we're expressing that we're feeling uncomfortable or we're feeling insecure, that's actually a beautiful way to release energy, is by owning and expressing it. And it is really tempting, again, if people haven't done that kind of shadow work, when someone starts to be really vulnerable, we're almost trying to stop the process. Like, just stop. You gotta stop being insecure. You gotta stop being vulnerable because you're making me uncomfortable. Being able to, I think I was saying that this is a big part of this course that we're doing. One of the big thing is just to say, just like flat forward, I feel insecure. That actually is a position of power. Whereas it doesn't seem that way, right? Because again, if we've learned that, words have power and all that kind of stuff, and you want to only say nice things like, I don't feel insecure, I feel happy, I feel excited. But that can keep us from being honest about the uncomfortable feelings. And when we're just completely straight, like no extra story, like Emily was saying, no extra muddling. We're not trying to say it to manipulate other people. I'm not saying I feel insecure so that you change. And if I say I feel insecure, then finally you'll change into the thing I want you to be. But just saying I'm feeling insecure is a very, very powerful thing to do. Very, very powerful in the body to be able to say something like that. Um, and even though that seems defeatist, by being realistic, authentic, and transparent with ourselves, that actually is what keeps the energy in space and in our conscious awareness, and then able to then transform. But as long as I say I never feel insecure, I can't feel insecure, I feel too connected, so I'm too happy, and I'll never feel sad, then it becomes a shadow. So the shadow of that thing, of that insecurity, then comes out, and it comes out in big forms, and it might create all these fucking dramas and different ways of being on the inside. And all it needs to really have is just that little acknowledgement of I feel insecure. So I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about right now. Oh, Kate came in to say that was a huge one for me and John to learn. I wish I had learned it so much earlier. Is that the when we feel insecure or upset with each other, just being able to say it directly? Please comment again, Kate, to let me know. Yes, and Jody, please do share the meme. I would appreciate that. Hello, Lena. How you doing, my dear friend? And Tash says, keep sharing your thoughts. You're a true light. Thank you for your words. Yeah, no problem. And again, I'm happy that I'm able to just fucking mumble here through this whole thing because I was feeling a little unprepared, but I'd like to keep things casual. I want to be able to talk about these things, and I apologize as well for people that are in here. I probably only half answered your question, but we're just going to let the flow keep going. I'm trying to remind myself just to let that flow keep going, even if what I say isn't perfect, just to keep it going. And Kate's saying yes. So what Kate is saying is that if she, in her relationship, knew that she could just say, hey, I'm feeling upset, or I'm feeling insecure, or I'm feeling a bit off right now, that it would have been a lot easier if she could communicate that to her husband back in the day. But the truth is nobody was given the tools to be able to say those direct, simple statements. And it's funny because it seemed like the worst thing in the world, right? Like if I was to say I'm feeling insecure, you're essentially saying I'm now vulnerable. And if I'm vulnerable, why wouldn't the people that are closest to me attack? And the truth is that that's the way that the whole world ran for a very long time. And from parent to child, from partner to partner, from friend to friend, people often weren't able to be as honest with their feelings as they could, because if they did, yeah, it could have turned into somebody being mean to them. And I think it's really important to remember that the world was harsher, and there was so much. Yeah, it said it would explode and then turn on, and then it was on a massive fight. Exactly. But just, yeah, remember again how many times in that fight, if both parties felt comfortable to say, oh, I feel insecure, and oh, I feel jealous, and oh, I feel uncomfortable, and oh, I feel unloved. Like if we were just to be able to say any of those things, and then have that be a very quick turnaround from there often is what would happen. And I know that I'm living proof because me and Lily go through that quite often. Whenever we're going through something, we're just very, very simple statements. It's not about, and you're not saying I'm feeling, again, if I say I'm feeling insecure, but I'm kind of looking over at someone like, I'm feeling insecure, so you'd better change what you're doing. That is a completely different quality of expression than being able to be in one's presence, in one's body, and just be like, in the most truthful, authentic sense, I feel insecure. That energy tends to neutralize the issues as they come up as well. Yeah, and Kate's saying we do that now. Half an hour uncomfortable instead of 3 days of hate. Fuck yeah, yeah, and yeah. Imagine not just for interpersonal relationship. Imagine even for the world at large and all the issues that people have and all of the crazy defenses that everyone builds up. Imagine if we could just start to be direct and process things in a very fast, reasonable manner. It would change things from being. I think actually that could be a book title, Half Hour of Uncomfortable, because most of the things in our life that really are still niggling at us would be a very half hour of uncomfortable, and not necessarily need to be the 3 million times things. And I'm actually would love to jump straight the fuck into this, Selena. So Lena, just to let you know, I see what you wrote. I'm going to get back to you for a second, but I just wanted to bring this up. Have you ever tried applying this way of being with a cluster B personality type? Now, this is a very, very sensitive topic, so I think it's really important to remember, because now, can you define to me what is the cluster B stuff? Is that like bipolar and that sort of stuff, Selena? I'm going to wait for you to put something in here to make sure that I'm on the right track before I get going. But if we ever tried to, like, if a person is having, what's it, bipolar or borderline personality, is that all cluster B? Is that what that would be called? Get with me for a second here, and yeah, I want to talk about this as best I possibly can. Oh, we're still on. Yes, okay. So here's the truth, Selena. I have, and it hasn't gone particularly well, and so I actually almost even feel like a wound a bit in my heart from trying to do these practices with partners that have had issues where we couldn't breach that in the past. So yeah, narcissists and everything. So yeah, so I've actually had a situation where I've hit my head up against a wall with certain friends and partners and stuff in the past that are dealing with those issues. And also, though, have had very successful situations where people that are on the mend from those things, in other words, like, know themselves really, really well. So, like, it's not like they're just learning about the cluster B or they're learning about the personality issues they're working with, but people that have really gone into it for a long time are in a lot of self-awareness. I find these things do work. I don't know. I can't speak to narcissists just because I do feel like that by definition, if a person is like 100% squarely a narcissist, like, in other words, it's like there's no awareness outside of that paradigm, then I don't know if it is possible to do that kind of stuff. But with people with borderline personality and with bipolar, if they've gone through a bit of healing first, then I have found that these principles will work and that we can have these direct communications and understanding. But if that is at the very beginning of a process of learning about those things and it's like still quite uncontrolled, if you know what I mean, then I have had that really difficult time, and actually to the point where I actually kind of went crazy inside myself because I thought, oh my god, like, I can't do this. I'm not able to work in this way. And yeah, and I actually feel like a big wound in my own body and in my heart from experiences I've had in the past. So it's kind of a cool thing for you to bring up, and I'm happy to be able to process this a bit live. But there's also, I think it's important to remember that one size does not fit all, because yeah, one size doesn't fit all. So I can't say we've got these. Me and my wife have got these principles, and they'll always work for everyone. It's like, that's a stupid thing to say, in general, because even if a person isn't suffering with that specific type of disorder, we all have different forms and disorders, and things that are, and blind spots and traumas, and as you know very strongly, seen cultural traumas as well that are often informing and influencing these things too. So I'm not a person who says that, like, oh well, we've got this method and it'll work for everyone, because I have no fucking idea. And I think that's one of those things that, like, oftentimes because coaches are just making so much money, you have to be like, I've got one answer that will fit for everyone, and I don't think that that's fair. um, when you're saying relatable, though, you're saying that you've experienced that, obviously. Have you also experienced it when? Okay, yeah. So I'm sorry, I don't know the terminology that well, but bipolar isn't cluster B. So we're talking borderline personality, though, and narcissism and sociopathy, I'm assuming, and all those sorts of things. Well, can I ask you, Selena, just because again we're on here right now, um, have you had success with people that are going through healing on those, and you're able to kind of come with some more authentic communication? I'm curious to know if it's the same, because again, I feel like it would be easy for me to just be like, no, it doesn't work because I've had some bad experiences in the past. But I also know people that have really put themselves through like deep healing programs, and therapy and that sort of thing, and come out, especially with borderline personality in particular. And as they've come out, I found that a lot of these things do work, after some healing and some understanding has come. But in the middle of it, when we're unconscious to big energies inside of ourselves, yeah, it is quite difficult, and it is possible to work ourselves up and get ourselves into a situation where we're hitting our head against a wall because the other person can't feel what we're trying to express. And uh, authenticity doesn't really work because it's just so far in a painful paradigm. Please type to me. I'm just going to move on to something else for a bit here, but please do type to me about what you're feeling. Tash comes up to say, it's hard to know how to talk when you've had to keep silent for many reasons for years, basically flying by the seat of our pants, argument after argument, but the love is there. We want to be better together. It's hard to be able to say, I feel jealous, insecure, unloved. I agree. Counseling does shit. I feel it's a real journey, a personal one, where you have to tailor your needs to what you need. When I was growing up, when you argued, it was bad, and it ended bad, and you made bad choice. Yeah, exactly. So I have a question for you, Tash, just out of curiosity, because you said you are going to therapy and stuff, and your partner and you are working through stuff. Um, could I ask if it's possible for you to put that into practice if you're feeling unloved, insecure, jealous, and see if it's possible to say it directly, though? Because again, there is a difference. If I'm saying, I'm feeling unloved, but what you're saying is, I want to feel love from you, that is different. And that's a very beautiful statement to be able to say, I'd like to feel a lot more love from you. But oftentimes we have to be careful, because when we're saying, I feel unloved, that's actually trying to say, I want more love from you. And being able to say, in just again in its own, as a complete sentence without any justification or narrativizing anything afterwards, I feel unloved. That's a power position, because they're in our inner body, we're inner presence, we're saying the way we feel. I would love to know if you could put that into practice with your partner, who I know very well. I love love you too, Britt. Um, if you could put that in, let me know how that goes. I'd be very, very curious. Um, Okay, nothing more from Selena, but I am here with you. So if you want to keep on typing out, I'm good to go. Um, if I wanted to find some free stuff online for relationship help, is there pages or things? I'll have to look into that. I don't really know a lot of other people, especially when I'm trying to do my own work. I try not to get too intense on other people's work, but I do know that, attachment styles, if you were to look at that, that's probably one of the easiest ones to jump into. Jody says, I work great with these types if you ever want to have a chat, Selena. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jody and Selena, you must be online already, correct? I, I think you should be anyway. um, Yeah, let me just see what we're doing here. Yeah, you give that a crack. I would love, Tash, for you to give that a crack and just see how that goes. I trust you. I trust Britt. I trust the situation. I think it's important to remember that nobody's perfect, and even me and Lily, we teach this stuff. We get into silly fights, and the thing that I can say that is the truest for us is that we can get into a fight and out of a fight within, let's say, 15 minutes. Where as Kate was saying, oftentimes these things would take days, weeks, months, years. And so just being able to, for each person to own themselves, own their own truth, get into their own bodies, into their own presence, and be able to communicate these direct things to each other, it makes a huge fucking difference. So please put it into practice. Let me know how it goes, because I do feel like it's one of the big things. Hey, it's been 45 minutes. Again, thank you for coming on and embracing my little rambly styles as well, because I'm really getting into a place where I really want to keep doing this work and want to have it be more free flowing, more fun like this. I want to do more like a call-in show type situations as well. So everyone actually telling me how they're actually feeling, and being able to have a chat on that right now has been really, really helpful. So thank you, thank you, thank you to everybody. Kate says, I love that, Josh. I love how real you are. Thank you. We're doing our best. Oh, Lindsay, I missed your comment here before. I wish to share that I was diagnosed both bipolar and borderline personality in 2011. In 2012, I was released from psychiatric care because it was realized that the diagnosis is a result of personal trauma and wounding and severely abusive relationship and environment. So, and thank you so much, Lindsay. That's an incredibly vulnerable and deep thing to share. Um, and what you're saying is you had 10 years basically where with those diagnoses you were going into your own strategies as to how to work with those things and everything. And in the end, it sounds like you went deeper and found, actually, that is trauma, personal trauma that you've experienced. I would guess cultural and DNA trauma as well, because remember, we're not just ourselves. We're an accumulation and a conglomeration of all the different parts of our family's history and our society's illnesses and pain. And as everybody knows, because the indigenous people in all of these countries were completely fucked, like completely fucked over. That has trauma in the bodies of folks, as well as I say, Selena, you have responded. I'm gonna get into this right in a second, but also that people who have abused in the past. So that again, that lives in our bloodline. Our forebears did a lot of abuse, so remembering that that also comes with a level of trauma. We often, and rightfully so, are focused on the victim's trauma, but there is an abuser's trauma as well. And I'm not talking about like just in the everyday thing. I mean that if en masse whole countries have gone and killed and raped people, there is an effect that that has in your psyche, even if you're the winner. And I think it's really important to remember that we carry in our bodies trauma and pain as victim and abuser that goes back ages. So just keeping that in mind, that when we're dealing with mental health issues, these mental health issues are not all, they are ours, and they are often from our own experiences, but they're also very deep and often go back through our bloodlines, regardless of which side of the pain that we have fallen on as well. Selena says, like you said, I've seen it work as well, but it's only work with people putting in years of their lives to becoming that better person, into integrating all the things that they are and all the things that they want to be. I found it very hard with cluster V types because the manipulation in them runs so deep that when they do spend times in these programs or some kind of self-healing anything, they basically learn the terminology of what they want from people. And it's very interesting you say that. Okay, so again, me and Lily are working on something, a course called Transformational Communication. And I actually have this whole section that I've written to say that, like, how do we say this nicely? If we learn how to communicate with these principles, somebody could easily take this and abuse someone with it. And I know that actually because what is it called? Nonviolent communication. So we got one part. Nonviolent communication is like a 4-part thing. We've got like an 8-part thing, and one part overlaps between the two of them. But I was reminded in my intuition while I was doing some writing the other day. I was like, fuck, man, people take nonviolent communication and abuse people with it all the time. It's like the most normal thing to be like, I feel statements. Again, I feel sad, and you have to stop being who you are, because if you just change yourself, then like we have to be careful that our statements, I have to be careful that my statements, we all have to be careful that our statements when we're expressing is to express. It's to say what's happening inside of our body and inside of our presence. If we're saying I feel statements and we're hoping that other people will change the way they are depending on us using those I feel statements, then it absolutely is a form of manipulation. And people will do that. Like people will take, as you just said, from a self-healing, you can learn a self-healing thing, and then suddenly they're like using that against other people. Happens all the fucking time. And actually, I would even say that I've been hesitant to put any work out there in the world for that reason, because it doesn't matter your intentions, doesn't matter how clearly you can write something. Like people will take those things and use them for manipulative game, and especially things in the healing world, especially things in the new agey healing world. Fuck, man, everyone's so ungrounded anyway that it's just really easy for mental illness to be exasperated rather than relieved, using healing programs and using these methodologies. So yeah, we're writing into writing into the course this notion that it is very possible to use this to try to manipulate or abuse other people. It's very possible that someone's going to learn this exact technique and then turn it around and try to use it in a manipulative manner against others. So that is just being honest. That's just being real. That's just being straight to the point. And we're going to have to just continually address that as we do our courses, because it is very possible for people to fuck that off. And a bummer. Ugh, can't wait to blow my nose. um, yeah, yeah, and Selena, just say grateful that you're doing that. Thank you. And then also like there's that aspect of it, but then also that people will take these things not just to abuse others, but just to feel special about themselves. You know, it's a shame because everyone wants to feel as gods, right? And so if we learn about spirituality, we learn that we're all one and connected, for example, it's easy to very quickly turn that into we're all one, therefore I am connected to everybody, therefore I am God. And we see it all the time, right? In what could be or could have been a lovely teaching and a lovely interpretation just turned completely fucking on its head. It's a real thing that happens. So just keeping that in mind and in heart, that whenever we're learning anything, it can be misapplied and can be taken and used in a way to make ourselves feel special and make other people feel worse. That's the big thing in new age healing stuff, right? Is like, oh, well, my vibration's now great, unlike your shit vibration, you fucking cunt. How dare you be so low vibe in my beautiful presence? Like, fuck. Shit, that shit happens all the time. And you have to be so careful with that, because how so yeah, so bad. Yeah, exactly. It's so bad. Like it really is. If the analogy could just be that, like with Christianity, Jesus was like, love one another, and everyone was like, kill and hate the people that we don't love. Like, wait, that wasn't it. Like it's just so easy, and it's the human tendency to take something nice and turn it into absolute fucking bullshit. All right, guys, I'm gonna sign off now. It's been almost an hour. I'm gonna try to do these a little bit more, keep them fresh like this, keep it more interactive. I've really enjoyed myself today, everyone. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Selena, for coming and talking about that very specific and very sensitive topic. Thank you, Tash, for coming to talk about your experiences and how you're dealing with living in Nova Scotia. I'll tell you right now, I feel a little bit nervous thinking about it still. Jody, thank you so much as always for just being an absolute fucking smasher. I really, really appreciate your presence and all these things. Kate, that's Lily's mama. Thank you so much for being in here and saying thoughtful things. Lindsay, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience with cluster B situations that then turned out to be trauma and healing. And I fucking very much know that that is a lot of the way. Lena, thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate you always. Eric, thank you for coming in too. And we're gonna ride. And Emily, thank you so much for all of the amazing interactions. I really appreciate. And Facebook user, see, Facebook user, who are you? Lots of love, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in today, and we'll do this again soon. Mwah.